after outrage over the FIR in Bihar against 49 eminent personalities for writing an open letter to the Prime Minister on mob violence. The Bihar police has found that the case is maliciously false. The local SSP, who supervised the case, has said that it was a case with an intent to harass people and has recommended action under IPC sections of false information and false charges. The investigating officer is likely to submit his report, his final report, in a local court in a day or two. So the charges on the basis of which an FIR was ordered, the police now believes were utterly false. So that's going to be what we look at in the beginning of our program. Joining us, Harsh Mandar and Professor Shamsul Islam in the studio. Both of them, in fact, all of our panelists, 3 of our 4 panelists in this first discussion have written letters, either in favor of the activists who've written the letters or those who've said in the counter letter that no, the activists were wrong. So they are all relevant in this debate. We've got Harsh Mandar, Professor Shamsul Islam, Professor Abhijit Chakravarti and Deshratan Nigam, who's not written a letter but joins us on this debate. But let me go first, to Professor Abhijit Chakravarti. Professor Chakravarti, do you welcome the decision of the Bihar police now to say that the charges which were made of sedition against the 49 people who had written that letter were malicious? Do you welcome what the police have now said?
You see, the letter, if we go back to the letter I signed, that is against this, and that time I raised the question that these persons, many of them are from West Bengal, these persons, they raised selectively some issues. They did not protest when there was killing in Kashmir for Hindu Pundits. They did not protest for CRPF jawans.
So the fact that the charges are malicious and wrong, you don't believe is significant?
No, I'm coming to that point.
That the charges were malicious and wrong.
Now,
you think the police is wrong in saying that?
No, that I'm not telling. I'm telling that since these persons, they selectively raise issues, so that time the motive behind these issues may come. Somebody may question the motive behind the issues. Now the question, they put it in the court, and the court has given some order in the inquiry or orders or like that.
The Chief Judicial Magistrate ordered an FIR, and the police have now said that the initial charges on the basis of which the FIR was filed was malicious and wrong. So therefore, what is the basis of the letter that you have written? Would you agree, sir, that the letter that you wrote also therefore stands to be incorrect? Or do you believe that these allegations which the police now says are malicious and wrong, that the police is in fact incorrect?
No, let me tell first that I raised the question that these people are selective in raising some questions. So there may be intention, there may be motivation in raising these issues. There are many issues they raise, many issues they don't raise. Even in Bengal there were many lynchings, so they did not raise any issue, they did not raise any question.
No, but Professor Chakravarti,
such issues,
even if you are to say that the so-called these people, you refer to them as these people, having raised an issue and that there may be intentions, does anything warrant in that letter you're saying that these people were a part of the Tukre gang, they are libtards, they have defamed India, they are being exploited by Pakistan? What is their crime? They wrote a letter in which they said that they condemn lynching deaths in this country. Does anything, since the Prime Minister himself says that lynching deaths are awful and must change, why did you need to write a letter, saying all these things against the individual who you refer to as these people?
The main reason is that they did not raise their question in many issues, particularly pointing some issues and projecting that there is no administration in India, there is no judiciary in India.
No, but they have not said that at all, sir.
So we protested against this letter.
Harshmander, how would you reply to that? That you know, you are part of quote unquote these people, and that you are that you are casting aspersions about the nature of our country, and that's helping quote unquote our enemy, Pakistan. So that's how you've been labeled, besides Tukre gang and all of that. How would you reply, Harshmander?
See, I love my country deeply, and that is why I would fight to my last breath people who are, I believe, destroying the social fabric and the civilizational traditions of this land by generating hatred based on religious identities. And we are seeing a huge upsurge. I mean, the facts are undeniable that the cow-related lynchings have gone up like hugely during these last years, and they have gone up because there's an enabling environment which legitimizes hatred, which comes from from the top. I have been spending a lot of my last few years traveling. I made a resolve that I would go to every family that has been lynched around the country. We made 31 journeys of the Karwan-e-Mohabbat to 14 states. I have seen so much of the lynching. The lynching is extremely cruel. It's you not just kill. I mean, families have reached a point when they're saying, "Maar hi dete." Why did they have to torture? Why did they gouge out the eyes? Why did they stone? And then they are performative. They are filmed triumphantly by the perpetrators. People are forced to say Jai Shri Ram. If they don't say it, they're attacked. They're very clearly religious hate crimes, and I think that if there are people in this country who are concerned about what it is, one can disagree with them, but they're certainly not seditious. They love the country no less than anybody else.
Okay.
And I think that to charge them with sedition is so atrocious.
So I want to actually put that across to Deshratan Nigam.
We stand together.
Okay, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, between 2014 and 2016, there were 112 sedition cases. There were 179 arrests. The convictions were 2. Does this really make sense in the present context? Sedition laws, particularly when law and order has not been affected.
As I speak, day before yesterday, on the night of Navami, our RSS Swayam Sevak was lynched. His name is Bandhu Prakash Pal. His wife and child their throat was slit by a group of people in Murshidabad in West Bengal by a particular community.
Right.
It's not there in the news.
No, but answer my question, and I promise I will 100% get to what the point you're making.
Other lynchings were justified.
See, why do you have to interrupt?
Don't talk to me, talk to him.
No. So, but I'll come to you.
Him to be
We've
quiet.
got time. We've got time. Let's not get into a battle like this.
I recollect his interjections.
My question stays, does this justify?
Right, so I'm asking the questions. With your permission, can I please go ahead and do that? I assure you, you'll get your chance. But Mr. Deshratan Nigam, you're not answering my question.
I'm coming to this.
And I promise we will address your question as well, because it's an important point.
So
my question is on sedition.
I'm coming to
convictions.
Now,
109.
I'll come to that. Now, first, this was a person on whom this entire case was started. He had gone to the police first. Police had refused to lodge a case.
Yes.
And then he went to the court under the provision of CRPC 156(3), and then the court ordered an FIR to be registered. We have to make our facts very clear. Now, police investigation report is not the final word still. This will go to the court. Court, in its wisdom, will decide whether this report has to be accepted, rejected, or partly accepted or partly rejected. So let us be very clear that this is not the final word so far the police is concerned.
Right, fair enough. But as far as sedition is concerned.
Yes. Now the larger question is whether we need sedition law or not, based on the statistics that you are showing.
Yes.
I think we need it, but it has to be sparingly used.
Correct.
And as long as we have the threat of terrorism, separatism, or extremism, or there are people who are trying to promote animosity between people, or who are willing to, instigate or...
But is there a real worry, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, that this is being misused?
No,
You've seen the content of that letter. What is the grave harm in that letter?
I am not saying that law is
that
not
sedition case is put.
No, there are two issues. Whether you require a sedition law or not, one, I say yes. Secondly, whether it is, yes, there is a possibility of misuse. Not only sedition law. In India, almost all laws are misused.
But let's talk about sedition.
No, I am saying so. There is a possibility.
Why do you say possibility? It's a fact, sir.
No, the fact is that what you're saying, low conviction rate, if you look at in India, based on number of factors, poor investigation, incapability of the police, incompetence, because you don't have the real investigative capabilities. There are a huge number of factors.
Professor Shamsul Islam.
No, just one second.
Yeah.
Unless until you take up each and individual cases and discuss it on merit, it would be very difficult to make a general proposition on this subject.
Gandhiji described sedition 124A, it remains today 124A, as the prince among political sections of the Indian Penal Code, the prince, the one that was most misused. All these decades later, on the basis of the case that you've just seen, one small example in fact, do you believe that it remains that? It's meant to stifle dissent, as in when it pleases someone.
Just I want to take you back to 1919, when sedition laws were enforced, and how India had reacted to that. Jallianwala Bagh, right? And then Bhagat Singh threw a fake bomb in the assembly, protesting against that. And today that is the mantra of RSS BJP rulers. And another thing, it pains me immensely that without going into the technical details of the Bihar case, that Prime Minister is saying that lynching is bad, Bhagwatji is saying that lynching is bad, but that is not Indian, that has come from Europe. But these people who opposed the intellectuals, they are saying that that is with the that's making fun of the country or trying to harm the country. Right. So what kind of attitude is this? We need to understand.
Okay. Professor Chakravarti, I'm sort of kind of mixing up what I meant to discuss in the later part of this program, but I think it's relevant now as well. Mohan Bhagwatji said that lynching is alien to Bharat, and he got into the term and where he believed it originated. He said that it's from somewhere else. That was his implication. But a lot of people would say that 124A, sedition, is also from somewhere else. It's an old British law in a different context. So isn't this sort of using one argument and saying, oh, you know, lynching is not ours, it is somewhere else, whereas 124A, which is also not ours, it's come from a previous British Raj, is ours today. Isn't it sort of picking an argument that suits you and chucking an argument that doesn't suit you?
In fact, if you look at our ancient tradition and ancient India, at least we do not find the law, or we do not find the procedure or practice. And at least whatever I know, there is no such instance or incidents, or even in our ancient literature we read about this law of lynching and etc., all these things. But later it started, the practice started later. So in that sense, it is not our tradition, it is not the tradition of India where lynching was initiated.
But in terms of sedition,
where it has come, I am not a historian.
In terms of sedition itself, so I have read out the conviction statistics. You have opposed in writing the letter written by people like Harsh Mandar. What was so dreadfully wrong in that letter? We've got the letter with us. What was so dreadfully wrong in that letter that you had to refer to them as tukre gang, as people who are saying things which can help Pakistan, that these people have kept silent when separatists have used dictates to burn schools in Kashmir? Do you really believe someone like Harsh Mandar or any of the people over there support terrorists?
No, this is not a question like that. They are supporting terrorists. That is not a question. Question is that the spirit of the letter. The spirit of the letter indicates that that many things which for that India has been defamed. So those things were not raised.
So how has
there were many lynchings here?
Professor
But
Chakrabarti, how
were
has
some
India
problems.
been defamed
Yes.
if questions are asked, particularly since in the letter that you have written, you have said that there is more dissent now in India than in the past? If that is the case, and dissent is an integral part of our democracy, then by your own logic, what was so profoundly wrong with what Mr. Harshmander and others had written? What?
I told the spirit of the letter. It is not that dissent is wrong. In democracy there will be dissent. But the spirit of the dissent, the spirit of the letter, the spirit, how do we see the matter? How do we raise the issue? For whom? We are not raising the issue for our Jawans, for our army, for people who are serving for the country and getting killed.
But Mr. Mandar has no problem with our Jawans. He is not talking about our Jawans.
No, let me tell.
That's a separate issue, sir.
No, let me tell.
That means if you are raising
Can you
voice
not
against
be,
lynching,
can you not be somebody
you are passing
who
the
says
minority
lynching
to
is
the
bad,
Jawans.
but at the same time believe in the rights of the Jawans or believe in the territorial integrity of India? You can't be both at the same time. To believe in the rights of Jawans, you have to also be a person who says that lynching is an alien concept.
I am talking about that when there is a lynching of the persons who are protecting our country, that time these people, they do not raise voices. When there are murder and lynching for the refugees in West Bengal, in Morinchapi, in other parts, when there are murder and rape in Bangladesh for Hindu minorities, so that time these people, they do not raise the voice.
Harshmander, answer that
spirit of
question,
the
because
letter
this is a
itself
very
is
specific
questionable.
allegation. In that letter it keeps coming up that you are endorsing, and let's be, when one community, the majority community attacks minorities, that is when you raise your voice. When it happens the other way around, and there are 12 examples which have been raised in this letter, you sit and you do nothing. How would you reply to that?
See, it's factually not true. I, for instance, have been traveling. I have gone to homes there are much fewer caste Hindus who have been killed. There are Dalits who are Hindus who have been killed by lynch mobs. We have gone to their homes. There are few cases of caste Hindus who have been killed in the overall numbers, and we have gone and offered exactly the same sympathy and support and solidarity. I've written about their stories as well. But the fact is that the overwhelming majority of people who have been killed in lynch attacks are of one particular religious identity, which is Muslim, and therefore we will go in solidarity with them who are being attacked. Dalits are being attacked in somewhat smaller numbers, but they are the next largest group. Adivasis in some places have been attacked. So we go to wherever the violence is. So I think that we need to, I totally deny, and as far as attacks on minorities in Bangladesh are concerned, I'm entirely against. I've spoken. I have fought against the oppression of minorities in Pakistan and in Bangladesh. So this is just a myth. This whataboutery is something that I don't even feel it is appropriate to try to respond to this. We stand for a humane country. We stand against hate, wherever it arises, and whoever is the victim, we stand with that person.
Mr. Deshratan Nigam, since 2012, there have been 133 cow-related deaths, incidents, 50 deaths. 98% of these are after 2014. 74% of those murdered were Muslim, 20% were Hindus. So while every murder, irrespective of faith, is as bad, the point that's being made is that one community has been disproportionately targeted. I think that's the point that Mr. Mandar makes. How would you respond to that?
That's factually incorrect. We had documented more than 250 Hindu lynchings by the community, and on your own programs I had carried the list last and I had done a number of programs, and which are all very well documented, and these were based on newspaper reports. But I don't see a mention of that in the letters of so-called intellectuals, not a mention. They call Jai Shri Ram as a war cry. distinct example of Bharat Yadav, who was killed by the cry of Allahu Akbar. I don't see a mention there. Let us not relate it to a religion. The moment you relate it to a religion, you are doing disservice to the whole community and India. You are also not finding a solution to it. That is what Mohan Bhagwat ji said. Let's not blame the communities here. You have to look beyond. Yes, a strict action has to be taken against people who are guilty. And this is a small groups who are doing it and who are trying to, utilize, and some of the politicians are utilizing it and blaming one particular community. That is where we have to come out of this syndrome. And I wish they had written all that in this letter. They would have balanced this letter. The moment you give a tilt to your letter or a story, it gives me a pain.
You started, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, by numbers. I'll come to you next, sir. Just give me and then you can jump in.
And it's not about numbers, please.
But you're questioning the numbers.
Let's not. No, I'm not. I'm saying
because you have, and it's true. You've come over here. You've disputed the numbers which have been made. This letter is based on certain numbers, and this
on
is
fact checkers, hate crime also,
the Citizens Religious Hate Crime Watch, and they are saying.
I'll give you example of a fact checker. Fact checker withdrew its Twitter handle of hate crime because there were lot of incidents were found to be fake news. They withdrew that Twitter handle.
But they've come up with new numbers. These are newer numbers.
No, these are the old numbers that they've stopped even doing it. That fact checker, they've Would
you like to come in over? He raises the point, very important point, that these numbers are inaccurate. We have tracked many of these numbers. We do believe they are accurate ourselves, but there is a small variation in the numbers.
I think on this show you cannot decide the correctness of the figures. But very interesting thing is
that's the basis of this argument.
They are complaining the same thing, that lynchings, some other lynchings also took place, and why did not they write to Prime Minister? You should have written to Prime Minister that no action has been taken. And you should have talked to those intellectuals that include these also.
No, but then that's just the flip side of the argument that he is raising.
What is that?
No, he is saying that only one community, when there is violence against one community,
that's not one community.
That people speak.
Dalits were there, Hindus were there,
right?
And moreover,
so you're actually saying the opposite side of the same argument.
Number of Dalits
I'm saying
have been killed by Muslims, and I can give you examples.
That almost all lynching cases are going uninvestigated and responded by the state. So who has stopped them by saying that these you should? That shows the inactivity of the Modi government.
But you've got the Prime Minister who's criticized.
Let me answer
this. You've got the Supreme Court as well.
Can I answer that? I think I start.
But what is Professor Abhijit saying?
No, one sec. Let him answer that question. You made a point.
I start doubting the intellectualism of a person. Doubting, not saying that I don't consider.
Okay.
When instead of writing to a chief minister on law and order, which is a state subject, they question the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is not
they've raised writing to the Prime Minister. He is our Prime Minister. He's everybody's Prime Minister.
No, you can keep on writing. But the first stage is to question the Chief Minister of a particular state.
But if you are appealing to the ultimate authority,
did you suggest that to you? That first right to Chief Minister?
I don't. Please hold on. Please hold on.
No, but sir, I disagree with you on this point.
See, the fact
you can write to the Prime Minister. He's everybody's Prime Minister.
You can write anywhere. You can write anywhere. I'm not saying. But law and order is a state subject.
You can appeal to the Supreme Court in many cases without necessarily going to a lower court.
I think
that happens all the time.
You are just diverting the issue, Professor Mr. Nigam.
Can you allow me to speak? I mean, I don't like this kind of a debate, where people keep...
Because you want silence, huh?
No, one second.
When you are speaking, you are giving permission.
Let's
everybody should be silent.
I'm trying to give everybody an opportunity.
Supreme Court, you go under a law directly because the law permits you. So that analogy does not work here. It's a state subject. You can write.
So you can Indian Constitution doesn't permit writing to Prime Minister.
You write constitutionally. Okay. You should have written.
That's a small point, and it's not really central to this.
It shows the intention of a person. That you want to politicize an issue which is not to be politicized.
What is wrong with politicizing?
So writing to the Prime Minister is politicizing the issue. Writing to the Chief Minister is not
of the particular state. Can I answer? Can I answer? Because this is the Chief Minister who's responsible.
Okay, 1 second. He has a point. Yeah, go ahead.
But when our Prime Minister goes on a dawat in a private party of Pakistan Prime Minister, that's not politics, that's personal thing, right? And when we write to our Prime Minister, that is politics. Isn't it funny?
I think your argument is funny.
Oh.
Okay, 1 sec. Mr. Mandar, the point that Deshratan Nigam was raising, he questions the statistics. When you wrote this letter, what was the fact checking that you did? Or when you signed this letter, what was the fact checking that you did?
See, the fact there is, I have looked at the figures very, very carefully.
Okay.
And I've also traveled around the country. There is a difference, you know, when you can list, there are attacks that happen for multiple reasons all across the country, and victims of it could be Hindus, they could be Muslims, the perpetrators could be Muslim and they could be Hindus. A religious hate crime is a crime of a particular nature which targets people because of their religious identity. Cow-related lynching is basically a religious hate crime, and the data is incontrovertible. That has been, and the data is based on reports in the English language press, entirely covered. So I think that the data is credible. If anything, it is an undervaluation, because a lot of the police is not registering these cases as cases of lynching. So actually the numbers would probably be even higher. So I don't think, I mean, I just request Dr. Nigam, Ms. Nigam and the others, that we have to acknowledge a problem and then deal with it. If we are in a continuous stage of denial, and about speaking to the Prime Minister, of course we will speak to our Prime Minister if we believe that the whole legitimizing an environment has been created which legitimizes and valorizes. His union ministers go out and garland people who are convicted of lynching. His union ministers wrap a person in the national flag who has been held for lynching. His party nominates somebody who is facing charges of terror to Parliament. So I will address my Prime Minister. And
Professor Chakrabarty, would you like to respond to that? That there have been many instances in people who've been involved in these hate crimes, right? People who've been involved in these hate crimes have been feted by those close to the establishment, ministers or certainly leaders. How does that help the cause of anyone, particularly the Prime Minister?
At least I do not find the administration supporting hate crime. Every time I found that there are administrative actions and police inquiries and everything is there. So as per judicial activity and jury law, the process will take place. That is the thing, and it is under the process, I think. But the thing is that what you are telling about the minority communities, the minority communities in our country is safest among the minority communities in our neighboring countries. You go to Bangladesh, you go to China,
no, but that's
you go
hardly,
to Pakistan,
that's hardly
you go
an
to Sri
excuse.
Lanka.
We want all our communities to be safe, right? This is not an India versus Pakistan issue. Why should we compare ourselves with another country?
So you have problem with minorities being safe?
But why don't you compare? They are our neighboring countries. So my question was,
so
the spirit by which the letter was written for the minority communities in our country, that should have been reflected in the case when the minority communities in other countries are subjected to torture, rape and murder.
So I still, Professor Chakrabarty, most respectfully, we are talking about our country. Why don't we stick to a conversation on our country? The situation in another country may be better than ours, worse than ours, but we try to improve our situation, right?
Vishnu, you are right to that extent. You know, we should be confining to our country. It is the duty of the other countries to look after themselves. But the fact remains, when you look at the problem through colored glasses and you ignore certain aspects, you're not dealing with the problem. You are only, you know, brushing certain aspects of the problem under the carpet. Please. And therefore, once you balance, once you write a letter which is balanced, which looks at the problem dispassionately without taking sides, then we are able to find a solution, not with colored glasses as Harsh Mandar is trying to portray.
You had a point. Sir?
My point is that making this issue into Hindu-Muslim is always convenient so that a rightful solution does not take place.
But that's what you're being accused of.
My question is, why only wrong done by Muslims? how would you
But he's not said that at all.
No, he is saying that in other countries Muslims are doing bad to the minorities.
No, but I think the point we're trying to establish is that let's look at India. I mean, I disagree with Professor Chakrabarti most respectfully. I think Deshratan Nigamji also seems to suggest that we should focus on our country, and I'm sure you do as well.
And if we have to redress all wrongs of history, then we start from Ravan. Then we come to those who disrobbed Draupadi.
No,
you will have to start. How can you only take 200, 300, 400 years of the
okay, history? I think we need to bring this. I think we need to shape this. I think we need to shape this debate in the present context. Let's be specific, sir.